Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. We are doing our famous pregame for Kitsap Quiz Night. This is Kitsap Smokestack's Local Legends. Hello, how's everybody doing tonight? Yeah. Kitsap Smokestack, of course, is this wonderful publication. I always give a shout out to Bill Mickelson, who is an amazing man who is making arts and entertainment and people doing stuff happen in all of our Kitsap County, Kitsap Peninsula. So I always like to give a shout out there. Of course, with me tonight, we have an amazing guest for you. He needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one. His name is Eric Morley, but you might know him a little bit better when he puts on his costume, if I can call it that. It's on his shirt tonight, but you've probably seen him in something that weighs a whole lot more when he comes out as Krampus. Can I have a round of applause for this guy? He's amazing. He's doing amazing things in Kitsap County.
Thanks.
All right. So, Eric, it is so good to have you on Local Legends. You are nothing short of a local legend, and I always like to begin with the fact that Bill Mickelson, is the publication Smokestack is all about people doing stuff. You are doing stuff. However, the story he wrote about you, you are making something happen that in the absence of it would not happen. You have risen this event, Krampusnacht, from literally just a few people to more than 3,000. Did you hear that? 3,000 people attended down in downtown Bremerton. It's amazing. So I'd first like to just say welcome to Local Legends, Eric.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I would love to just dive right in. First, I want to know a little bit about you. You and I have, full disclosure, we are friends in real life,
right.
And I'm very happy to call you a friend. Tell me where you came from, and then how does Krampus get involved in all of this?
Well, I don't know how Krampus. I think Krampus has always been like an alter ego of mine for my entire life, but I was raised in Salt Lake City, Utah, and moved to, we owned an art, my partner Marcus and I owned an art gallery and mid-century modern furniture store there. And when our lease was up for renewal, I lost my corporate job due to a layoff, and so we just decided not to renew the lease and decided to change up life and decided Puget Sound was where we wanted to go. We spent a year in Seattle and decided we wanted to stick around. So we started looking for homes, and we found some listings in Bremerton. We'd never been to Bremerton. Came across on the ferry, made an offer on a house, had no idea where it was, what the neighborhood was like, what Bremerton was like, what the community was, and moved in, and 6 years later, this is home, and we absolutely love this town.
Wow, that's so cool. And so I know because I was coming home from work one day when I saw something from the movie It, right? As I'm going past up the hill in Manette, I see this, and it's kind of a foray into Krampus a little bit. Can you talk about that?
Well, that is kind of the genesis of Krampus, actually. So we've always really been, well, I was born in October, so I've always thought that Halloween was to celebrate me, because I'm pretentious like that. And Marcus and I have always loved Halloween. When we had our gallery, we threw really great Halloween-themed gallery shows where we'd bring in probably 100 artists. And then when we moved here, we were missing that. So Marcus made this life-size Pennywise clown that we put in our front yard. And then on Halloween, I filled the yard with red balloons and put them in all the storm drains down the street on Winfield. And I guess we just got a little bit Bremerton famous for doing our clown on Halloween. And that's kind of what gave me the start for Krampus, because I was on the Bremerton Arts Commission, and I was attending a First Friday event in, December 2019. I was at Fingers Duke. Sam Menlo from Fingers Duke and one of the organizers of First Friday Art Walk, she asked me if in 2020 I would show up dressed as Krampus, because I like horror things for their Krampus-themed art show. And I was like, sure, that sounds cool. And so I went largely on Amazon, bought a cheap costume, early on in the year and was all ready for it, and then COVID hit. So that stopped all the artworks for most of the year. December rolled around, I still had a costume. There was no art walk, so I got 4 of my friends to put them in like druid costumes and called them my elves so that I wouldn't be alone. I just went wandering around downtown Bremerton in costume and got a lot of weird looks. A few people said that they ran and hid from me, and that was kind of the start of it. Hardly anybody saw it. And then Michael Goodnow was down there, took some photos, posted them on Facebook, and the right people saw them, the photos.
Awesome.
And I got connected with this group called Krampus Seattle, who they dubbed themselves the Taylor Swift of Krampus. And they truly are in the Krampus world. They're internationally renowned, very, very well known. And they said, hey, if you want to do Krampus, do it right. And they taught me how to do it. And so I imported a mask and a costume from Austria, and then it's taken off from there.
Wow. So how heavy is it? I know that when I've seen you, it is laborious, is it not?
It is. Yeah. The mask is about 20 pounds itself.
Okay.
It's a wood-carved mask with real horns. And then the suit is all yak fur. And then I wear a sash full of bells, which is typical of Krampus. And so all in, the suit's about 80 pounds.
Wow, that's amazing. So, and I have to be honest with you, this year especially, I was walking with a friend in downtown Bremerton, and they said, I'm hearing a cowbell somewhere, and I went, oh, that's no cowbell. That's Krampus.
You can always hear me coming. I'm like a cat with a bell around its neck, but that also means you're a rat. So
That's right. That's
what
exactly
I was chasing
right.
after.
Yeah, oh yeah. But how good did it feel this year to see this event in its meteoric rise in downtown Bremerton? How did that feel to be there, surrounded? I mean, literally, the streets were filled with people.
So it reached a point this year that I thought it would take 10, maybe even 15 years to hit when I first started this. But I've always had this ambitious goal of what I want to do with this. And then what's interesting, I just worry about it. At the start of each year, the last couple of years, at the start, I'm like, are people going to like it? Are they going to like what I did? Is it enough? Is it big enough? And are people going to show up? So the festival opened officially at 4 o'clock. 4:45, I made my way from 4th and Pacific up to the Dusty Pug where the parade started. There was no one on the street. And I was like, all right, maybe 5 people show up, maybe thousands, I don't know. And then as the parade, we walked down the street, and I was at the very tail end of the parade, and seeing the streets just packed with people was breathtaking. It was overwhelming and exciting. Like there aren't enough adjectives to describe how it felt to see the community come out and know that it wasn't just Bremertonians here, that there were tourists, people who had come from far away to see what was happening in Bremerton. So that was pretty cool.
That is so cool. So let's go back and just briefly touch on Krampus as a tradition. I think it started in Austria, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But tell me, where does Krampus come from, and what does it mean? What does it signify?
Krampus is old. Krampus is probably he's probably 1,200 years old, or more. So he's older than Santa Claus for sure. It's a Bavarian tradition out of the Bavarian regions of Europe, so kind of Austria, Germany, northern Italy, and other areas of Europe. Not Nordic areas of Europe, as many people might think. It's believed that it started through the kind of goddess worship of Frau Perchta and Holda, and some of the earliest writings about it were Christian writings, which appeared around 1100s, 1200s. And around the same time, you started to see writings about St. Nicholas and the generosity of St. Nicholas and miracles of St. Nicholas. And throughout the centuries, there was this interplay between Krampus and St. Nicholas that happened century after century, particularly as local communities and religions tried to squash Krampus They didn't like it. They didn't like that it didn't align with more Christian values that started to come through in plays and parades, which tended to celebrate more Christian values than St. Nicholas. St. Nicholas took over Paradise plays, which were meant to be to celebrate Adam and Eve on December 24th, and then St. Nicholas kind of took that over, and they needed a depiction of Krampus, or of the devil, actually. And because they were trying to squash this tradition of Krampus, they started to represent the devil as a goat-like creature with horns, who was Krampus. And so I think that, I think it falls in the realm when you talk about fact, fiction, and an opinion. I think it falls in the realm of opinion of Krampus is the devil, because a modern depiction of Krampus or modern interpretation of Krampus may have some roots that come from some of those early depictions and trying to squash Krampus, the Krampus tradition in Austria in particular.
Interesting. Is there any sort of modern parallel here? Do you find that is there sort of anybody that is speaking up about, all right, we don't, this isn't our thing?
Yeah. Sure. Again, there are people who don't like it. There are people who don't like me. There are people in our own community who will comment on Facebook and attack others, saying that you don't like children and that kind of thing. What I will say is, coming from Utah, I was raised very religious. And I have an appreciation of an American lens and where people come from when they see something new. Anytime when we're introduced with something new into our lives, new information, whatever, we look at it through a familiar lens. And that familiar lens, for some, may be Christianity, because they look at my costume and say, that's the devil. It's not. That's not true. But I can appreciate their point of reference. What I ask of people is a little bit of respect or patience in trying to understand what I'm doing. If you Google it, you're going to get wrong information, because you're going to get a lot of opinions that feed into Google search engines. But the facts around Krampus are much different than what people might interpret it to be. It's actually, what it is intended to do is inspire people, because each of us has our own internal devil, our own internal evil, that thing that we need to overcome, that darkness and that scary thing. And Krampus is the physical manifestation of that inner part of ourselves that we need to overcome, particularly when we've got a physical darkness outside this time of year.
Yeah.
And so overcoming your fear in face of Krampus is a triumph and celebration of overcoming that darkness as individuals, and overcoming a physical manifestation in front of you, and a celebration of moving into the light. Around today is winter solstice, so moving into the light, moving into something new, celebrating that triumph and overcoming our fears. And what I've also found is that Krampus only cares about one thing, or I guess two, but he cares if you're naughty or if you're nice. He doesn't care about your religion. He doesn't care about your politics. He doesn't care about your wealth. He doesn't care about your status in the community, just if you're naughty or if you're nice. And what I find that is beautiful about that is I connect with people on a much more human level, because I don't know anything about them, but they just want to talk about Krampus.
Yeah.
And I think the simplicity of connecting with people like that is it humanizes people and connects people on a more human level. And that's the beauty of Krampus and why I think we need it. So for those who hate on Krampus, I would say they probably need a little more Krampus, because they need to connect with me and with others on a more human level and recognize I'm trying to do something good just as you are trying to do something good.
Yeah. It reminds me a little bit of Footloose. I have to bring that movie up because I want to go out dancing. I want to see Krampus. And the connection is the important thing here. We live in an age where people are on their phones, where people are driving in a car, what have you. They're not seeing what their community is up to necessarily. The pandemic did a lot of damage to this, right? And I love the fact that you're bringing people out and being together, and you're making connections, not just for themselves, but for other people. I love that. I love what you're doing. I think it's really, really important. I want to just end with the fact that where do we go from here? What's next for Eric Morley and for Krampus?
So my big, hairy, audacious goal for Krampus Bremerton is for Bremerton to be the premier destination for Krampus in the United States.
Nice, that's great.
And I think we're well on our way there. My social media has blown up this year. It's been a fantastic thing. We had people visiting here from all across the country just this year, smaller number, and we'll increase it next year. So the plan is to put Bremerton on the map nationally and even internationally. I'm getting people reaching out to me from all over the world, which is really, really cool. And I'm really passionate about this place that's super unique and that makes room for everybody. And Bremerton just has this secret sauce that makes it a wonderful place to live.
I love that. Well, Eric Morley, you have been such a fun guest for Local Legends. I want to thank the Manette Saloon for hosting us here. Eric, thanks so much for being here. Of course, Bill Mickelson. And I want you to know that you can go to KitsapSmokestack.org and watch every single podcast episode that we have done on this very stage. We'll have more to come. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, sir.